Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gloria. I work a 9 to 5 as a marketing communications professional in financial services. In my spare time, I record and upload short videos sharing tips and tricks on how to plan ahead, save time and budget your money so that you can live your best life. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video and share my content with your network if you find any of my videos useful. In today's video, I'll be sharing some of my best budget travel tips to help you plan a cheap vacation that you can actually enjoy and get the most value for your money. Recently, I went on a trip with my husband and to Kenya, and I must say that it's the most rewarding thing in terms of self-care that we have done for ourselves after a year of working without taking any major breaks. Right, so while I was sharing photos and videos of our travel experience on my social media handles, some of my friends in a group I belong to called TLH, the Learning Hub, suggested that since I talk a lot about budgeting, right, why not make a video sharing how one can actually plan and go on a vacation on a budget? And I'm like, okay, that sounds like something I would actually enjoy doing. So here we are. I'll be sharing some tips and tricks and some hacks to help you plan a vacation even when you are not like maybe earning so much. It's all about planning. So let's get right into it. First of all, I think it is entirely possible to travel with just little money, even when you don't have so much money. It would just take a lot of creativity and discipline, in my opinion. So I'm going to be sharing some of my best tips to help you put together a travel plan, even when you're not like earning in millions, basically. So from a budgeting perspective, my first tip would be to consider your travel location. Naturally, some locations, some destinations would be more expensive than others, right? And a vacation does not have to be an international trip. It could be a trip to a neighboring state or another local government. Basically, I think a change of environment would do, depending on how much you have to fund that trip and what your goal for the trip is. If you just want to take a break for maybe work and family and all that is going on in your life, business, you may be considering just changing your environment. So if you don't have so much at hand at the time, you could consider going to maybe another state, a place that is not too far away, so that you can easily fund the trip. So the first thing is to consider your travel location. So the next tip I would recommend is setting a budget in advance. I already know you saw this coming, right? So for every capital intensive project we want to embark on as a family, we normally just start in advance to plan the budget for that trip or that project. Like, how much are we going to need? Can we afford this? How long do we need to save to be able to afford this, right? So in this case, you need to decide where are you going to and the things you will need for the trip. Then you run a quick cost estimate to help you have an idea of how much you need to be budgeting for. Keep in mind that it doesn't have to be the full amount of money. It could just be a ballpark figure just to help you with planning, right? Just to help you to know, okay, this is how much I'm going to need to start saving, right? So you could find out the cost of maybe flight tickets, hotel accommodation, and even feeding. You can get this information online, right? So if you decide that you're going to be traveling and you'll be away for like a week, you need to multiply how much you will need to feed yourself for 7 days, right? So just getting the average amount for each of these items will help you determine an average cost of the entire experience, the entire trip. So you can now use that, set aside as your budget. So my next tip would be to use a separate account to start saving for that trip in advance, right? So using the budget you've set and with the knowledge of the timeline when you want to travel, right, divide the total amount in that budget by the number of months you have to save toward that trip, right? So this is going to give you an idea of the average amount you should be saving every month in that account for that trip. For instance, if you are planning on taking a year-end, vacation or trip, it would be more, easily achievable if you start saving for that trip from like January. Don't wait till middle of the year or year-end to start looking for ways to, find spare cash to travel. So from January, you start, saving little amounts of money based on the total amount that you need. You start saving in January so that by the time you get closer to your travel date, the money must have accumulated, and you'll be surprised how much you've accumulated over time, right? And the Moolah budget template is the perfect ideal tool you need to keep track of how much you are saving for your year-end and vacation. So my next tip would be to book for things in advance, right? If you started saving for your trip early enough, you should be able to pay for your flight tickets, bus tickets, or even visa processing if you need that in advance, right? So once you've confirmed your travel date, your location, and your means of transportation, I would advise, right, it makes sense to actually book your tickets at least 1 month in advance, because in my experience, even for local travel, right, the closer you are to your flight date, the more expensive the ticket is going to be. I see you guys, I see what you've been doing. So I mean, you could even consider booking at least a 1 night stay at a hotel. Just reserve your accommodation for 1 night, just so that you don't get stranded last minute, right? I think there are hotels where you can book without paying, or if you have to pay, maybe there's a refund option if plans change. But yeah, you get the drift. Pay and book for things in advance so that you get the best pricing. This leads me to my next point, and this one is for my fellow foodies, right? Book hotels that offer complimentary breakfast, buffet preferably. I can't overemphasize this because this is super convenient and will save you time, right? So you just wake up, have breakfast, and get on with your day without having to try to figure out what you're going to eat. Then for say lunch and for dinner, if the hotel food is pricey for you, I mean, given that we are on a budget here, you could consider exploring local restaurants around you using Google Maps and Jumia food app, for instance. I use that a lot, right? Another thing that can help you save cost, right, is to buy some essential things that you need for your stay, especially if it is like a long stay, right? What we do, for instance, is that once we check into the hotel, we buy we go to the nearest mall or supermarket to buy a pack of bottled water, a big pack of Nestle bottled water, for instance. It has like 20 bottles inside, so that would take us for like a week or so, or 2 weeks sometimes, depending, right? Instead of buying one bottle every day from the hotel, because we all know that they can be overpriced. So it's just easier to buy a pack, keep it, and drink as you like, in addition to the complimentary water you'll be getting from the hotel. Then you could get things like maybe snacks or cereals, so that you can just take them at different times if you're not able to go out to look for lunch or for dinner. They can be very, very handy. They come in very handy. My next point would be to always negotiate for discounts and look out for deals, right? If you ask, most hotels will offer you a discounted rate that is better than what is quoted on their website, especially if you are staying for several days. Just ask, they will always offer you a discount. So for flight tickets, we do a lot of comparisons between airlines to figure out the one that would work best for our budget and in terms of the quality of service that they provide. So we don't just check the first option and pay for it, except that's like the only option. I mean, so if that's not the only option, we definitely check and look at all the options available for us, and decide on the one that best suits into our budget. Also considering the quality of service. For instance, personally, there are some airlines I would most likely not want to use to avoid disappointments, last minute cancellations and all of that. So you want to put all of that into consideration if that is important to you. But if you're just aiming for the cost, check, just Google flights from here to there. You'll see all the flight options from different airlines pop up on your Google search results, and you should be able to find the best option that works for your budget. My next tip is to book a hotel with a convenient location, right? The location of your hotel where you'll be staying is very important, and you must not overlook it. Pick a hotel that is convenient to where you will be spending the most time during your trip. Not only will it save you, a huge amount of time in your travel destination, it's also going to save you cost of, local transportation, like maybe taking boats from here to there, Uber, or public transportation. It's going to really save you cost, right, if the hotel is accessible to to town or to the places you want to go to, depending on what your itinerary is for the trip. Just because a hotel is cheap doesn't make it the best option for you. For instance, if you stay at a cheap hotel but it is very far away from the places you planned on visiting, right, for recreation or for fun, you end up spending so much more money on transportation, on Bolt, on Uber, and it would now kind of just take away the benefits of being in a cheap, or affordable hotel. So it makes sense to compare the cost in comparison, with the location. Where is it located? Is it central enough? Is it accessible? Will I spend so much money, going out every day? So this is definitely something you should consider when researching hotel options online. If you are going on an international trip, you need to find out the requirements for entering that country in advance, right? I can't shout, like, it's very important, especially when you are going to be processing visa and other travel documents, travel requirements. I mean, when we traveled, we had to, sort out our yellow card, last minute to go for the immunization. I've never had one. I only just had one recently, because the first time I pre-traveled out, it wasn't a requirement. So this time around, that was needed. My husband had his, and I had to get mine sorted, and it was on really last minute. It was really last minute because there are a number of days required after the immunization. I think you can't travel until like 10 days after the first you've taken the first vaccine, right? So you need to find out the requirements for that, for entering that country in advance, so that you can start, processing your visa, processing your yellow card, and COVID vaccine, the COVID vaccine card as well. That's also a requirement for most countries now, ever since 2020. So yeah, you want to take all of that into consideration. So give yourself time to avoid last minute disappointments and disruptions in your travel plan. So since we are on a budget, right, my next tip would be to travel during off-peak seasons if it is possible. We all have work, business, and all of that. But if it is possible and you're traveling on a budget, try to avoid traveling during very busy seasons like Christmas, because most travel destinations will be more expensive during this season. It's basically just how the law of supply and demand works, right? The places will be overpopulated by people, by fellow travelers, tourists, and all of that, and a lot of things will be overpriced. Also, weekends are usually more, busier and potentially more expensive than weekdays. So you could explore maybe going to places on Wednesdays, on Tuesdays, and Thursdays, as opposed to going on Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday, or more. It's just how the law of demand and supply works. When there is huge demand, right, people can afford to increase, rates and prices of things. So you may want to avoid those very busy periods if you are on a tight budget and you don't want to spend too much. Right? Another thing is to actually avoid popular tourist destinations, because those places are by default going to be more expensive than places that are not so known, right? Places that are not popular, especially when you can't speak the local dialect, right? People may want to take advantage of you. For instance, we were in Kenya and we went to what's this market called? I've forgotten the name. We went to the market to get some locally made artwork and just some Kenyan stuff to remember our travel, right? And to just get some gifts for family. And we realized that if you're not speaking the dialect, you may not really know what value to place on some of the things that you are buying. Not like people are crooked or something, but it's just easier to negotiate and pay for things if you're speaking the dialect. You get the best price. So we had to get our driver, who was a local, to handle the pricing for things that we were going to buy. So yeah, if you are on a very tight budget, you probably should avoid going to popular tourist destinations, so that you don't spend too much of your naira, dollar, euros, whatever it is you're spending, shillings, and all of that. So the next tip would be to plan your itinerary in advance, right? If you are planning on deciding what you'll be doing on your vacation when you've actually arrived, maybe setting up yourself for a lot of impulse spending, overspending, buying things that you did not plan for. So it makes sense to actually plan what you'll be doing throughout the duration of your trip in advance, so that you don't end up spending so much money buying things that you never planned for. So you may consider spending your money on experiences instead, and taking lots and lots of pictures and videos. I mean, these are going to last way longer and they are free. Consider the conversion rates between countries when you are estimating the cost of things such as hotels, food, transportation, and activities. Take advantage of free Wi-Fi in public places like the airports, malls, etc. So this is a life-saving tip, guys. If you are going to check in any bag at the airport, please endeavor to take a picture of your bag, because it may go missing, and having a picture would make it a lot easier to retrieve. I'm saying this from experience. You honestly don't want to experience what we experience. You do not. So having a picture handy and knowing the contents of your bag, right, would make it easy to process a recovery. English will not fail me. Anyway, I intended for this to be a short video, but one way or the other, we are here. I hope you enjoyed the content I've shared, the ideas, the tips and tricks I've shared, and I'm certain that I have not covered all angles, right? So if you have any tips, any ideas for people who would like to travel on a budget, please feel free to share them in the comment section. I'll be there to respond and acknowledge your comments. Thank you. Also, if you find this video useful, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, please, and share it with people in your network who will find this kind of content very useful. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.